Hello and welcome back to the channel. I've returned to do one last video on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game. Now, last time you heard from me, I was basically saying that the game was going to maybe limp through 2025. I made some predictions. I said that the servers could be shut down in like 2026, maybe sooner than that, but that was kind of where my guess was. And then some things happened. You know, the game came to PlayStation Plus subscribers. The base level subscription, people got it for free, which is millions and millions of people, tens of millions of people getting this game with their PlayStation Plus subscription. And I was ecstatic when I found out about that, because I thought that was going to be the game's second wind. I really did. I thought, oh man, this is the Xbox Game Pass situation all over again. This is, you know, millions of people looking at this game and maybe getting into it. And one of the big problems that the game had when I did my last video was a lack of players. You know, the Steam concurrent players was like somewhere around, on a bad night when I would check it, like 350 players. And then on a good night, maybe you could see it as high as like 1,000. But it really seemed like the player base was dwindling. Matches were getting, you know, harder to get. It was taking longer to get them. So yeah, when the game came to PlayStation Plus, it's got this like giant shot in the arm. There were all these new players. There was new enthusiasm around it, and I just thought, yeah, those people got the game with their subscription for free. But I know that I saw a lot of new players who were using, you know, like Maria and Virginia and Wyatt, and then it's like some of the paid family members I saw that, you know, were low-level players out there too. And I just thought, awesome, you know, people are spending money on this game again. Maybe this is going to be the injection of funds that Gun Media is, you know, hoping for in order to, you know, pave the way for some new content, right? Be it maps, be it characters, whatever, you know, like this is a renewal of income for the game. So imagine my surprise when earlier today they put out there that the game is sunsetting now. They're done. No more support for Texas Chainsaw Massacre. They're going to do one more patch this month, which is the one that they're behind schedule on and should have put out last month. And that's just bug fixes, from my understanding. There's definitely no content coming with that. There's not even balance fixes or anything like that. I think it's just bugs. So yeah, and that's going to be it. They'll do a little bit of like minor patching afterward to transition the game from dedicated servers to peer-to-peer servers. And you know, a quick note about that. I've seen people who aren't involved with this game, or like aren't playing this game, they're not part of the game's community. It's like people who are watching the news today from afar and commenting on it and basically saying, oh, that's so great that they're not just shutting the game down, they're gonna transition to peer-to-peer servers. That's great, you know, the game is preserved, hurrah. Let me tell you why I'm not excited about that at all. In fact, I think the game is going to be dreadful on peer-to-peer servers. Basically, in peer-to-peer, when the host quits the game, the entire game ends for everybody, and you all get dumped to the menus. Right now, on dedicated servers, if somebody leaves and they're the host, well, the game just migrates to a new host, and nobody really, you know, feels so much as a hiccup. The game just goes on. You know, maybe you're down a teammate, but otherwise the game keeps going. So all that ends with peer-to-peer. Now, think about how many games you've been in where at least one person has quit, right? And in fact, think about when victims die. How often do you see victims quit the game after they're dead? All the time, right? So what if one of the people on the victim side of things is host, and they get killed and they leave? Well, that's the whole game for everybody. So you've just kind of effectively wasted a bunch of time because, you know, the first victim was the host, and oops, they died, so you're all done now. I just think that's going to make for a really frustrating night, you know, and I don't want to bother with it. I'm not going to bother with it. In fact, I was thinking about uninstalling the game tonight even. I had a hell of a time finding matches tonight, oddly enough. I don't know if it's just because everybody's mad about the announcement and people are not in the mood to play the game anymore. But I waited quite a bit to find matches tonight. The most I have in a good while, actually, since before the game came to PS Plus, for sure. So about that, I want to talk about PlayStation Plus, and I'm so disappointed that this announcement came the month after the game was free on PlayStation Plus. I mean, it seemed like this was going to be the boost that the game needed, the second wind, right? This is millions of people getting access to your game again at at no cost, right? Just like the Game Pass situation at launch. But I ran into numerous players, countless players that were newer to the game, low-level players, but they were playing, Wyatt or Maria or Virginia, somebody who was, they did a sale, man. They did a sale on DLC characters and stuff right after the game came to PlayStation Plus. And I saw plenty of new players playing those paid characters. And so I just think to announce that the game isn't going to get any support the month after that, I think that is really, really bad form. I think it's really crappy, because I think when you are going to put your game out there on a service like PlayStation Plus or Xbox Game Pass, if your game has been out there for a while and it's, whatever, lost a big chunk of its player base, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, man, because the moment you put it on that service, as far as I'm concerned, that is a renewal of your commitment to the game, because you've got millions of new people playing it, right? So I just don't understand how you can view that as anything but a renewal of commitment to the game. How you just announce you're going to shut it down the month after you've brought on millions of new people who you ask to spend money by putting the DLC on sale and stuff. I don't get it, man. I think it's really poor form, and it makes me feel like, I don't know, man. I try to give Gunn the benefit of the doubt, because making games is hard, and there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes that we don't know, right? We're just the audience here. There are things that we think we know, but there's plenty that we don't know. And so I don't want to be unkind to them. They made a great game that I have put more hours than I am willing to confess to in this video. I mean, I've played so much of this game. It's made me so happy over the last year and a half, and I want to thank them for that. That's awesome. They really made something amazing here. But that also just makes it sting that much more that they're gonna just shut it down now, because honestly, I feel like this thing has more gas left in the tank. I don't understand why. Maybe, I don't know. I can't get my head around it, man. It's got to be like a money thing, or just, I don't know. They're very mad at some mean comments on Reddit. Probably not. I would like to think that they're more mature and grown up than to just be like, screw it, man. They were mean to us about our last live stream, 6 months ago. So, no, how long ago was that? Gosh, that was a while ago now. Anyway, I think there's an obligation there, man. It's a renewal of your obligation, a renewal of your commitment to put a game on PlayStation Plus. And so I'm just absolutely dumbfounded that they're like, good night, y'all. That's it. We're done. It's just, mind-blowing. And I know I'm kind of going in circles here, so I will move along. But I think a lot of people just thought there was going to be more story to tell with this game here, and more content that would come to the game through that story, the same way it did in the game's first chapter, which was the Flores sisters chapter, right? So you had Maria disappearing, Anna getting her friends together and going and looking for her, and then they were telling a story that whole time, with things like Danny coming to the game, and we would get a trailer where Danny was at Nancy's house, and then you basically saw two new characters on each side of it. through that trailer, and it was telling the story at the same time too, because you would learn about Nancy's connection to the family, you would learn about Danny's connection as Maria's boyfriend, and they'd continue to do stuff like that and set up a new chapter with Bones and Wyatt, right? Wyatt not having any connection to the Flores sisters, but finding his way into the mix here, and even preceding that, Virginia, with her son going missing. She's looking for her son Jesse. She thinks the family has him, right? So there's a story that's kind of unfolding there that's now never going to see completion. And so I think, part of the statement that Gunn put out today said basically, and I'm paraphrasing a little bit here, but they basically said, yeah, we fully realized the Texas Chainsaw Massacre game that we set out to make. There's nothing, nothing else for us to do here, so we're done. We're closing it down. And it's like, you've got content that you announced, and they even had to do like a follow-up. I think it was a tweet or something like that, that basically said, oh yeah, content that we'd talked about previously that never came out, that's now fallen out of scope and it's not going to happen. So just to make that admission at the same time that you're saying, like, yep, we fully realized the game that we set out to make, I just think it's a bad look. It's also just a shame that this is all happening to this game now, less than 2 years from its release, especially when you consider the player base that this game enjoyed, right? At one point, we know that it had 5 million players because of just a really successful launch and Game Pass and everything that came through that. And I would guess that it probably enjoyed numbers like that again. And if however brief it may have been, I think the numbers were probably comparable when the game came to PlayStation Plus, because we're talking about tens of millions of players, right? So when a game enjoys that kind of success and gets that kind of an audience, you just expect that it's going to last longer than this. I said in my last video that I thought the biggest problem this game had was that Gun Media wanted to make a live service game without providing live service support. When you have a game that lives and dies by its online play, there are expectations that come along with that from the player base, in terms of the support that the game's going to get, in terms of the future content that would be planned for the game, right? The things to keep people interested. And I think if you're not ready to meet those expectations, then you shouldn't make a live service game. And this game is a great example of that. And I don't mean this in a mean way or a snarky way, but I sincerely think that the next game Gunn makes, I hope it's a single player game. I really do. I think the vibes are right here, and TCM, I think they've done so much right. Why not apply what they've done so well here to a single player game that doesn't need a server forever? It can literally just be pressed to a disc and enjoyed for years to come. As long as the hardware's functional, right? As long as you've got a working console and the disc, you could enjoy that kind of a game. I think there's a ton of value in that. They could look at something like Until Dawn, right? That's a great horror game that lends itself well to movies, or has a lot in common with movies, right? And here we've got a game that is based on a movie, so yeah, you could easily do something like that. They've got all the ingredients they need for a single player game in this game that we're looking at right now, honestly. You could take the victim side of the game and make that a whole single player campaign. You could have every level that they've put in, or every map that they've put in this game rather, be a level that you would have to progress through as a victim while avoiding family members. And that's just off the top of my head. That could be like the base for what they would build from there, right? You could have a real single player story built from the bones of this thing, just as an example here, right? And I think they would do really well at that. And so I sincerely hope that they maybe give that a shot next time around, because that way you won't have these expectations that you're either unwilling or unable to meet that come along with live service games. So, yeah, that's just my thought on that. It's a shame, man. It's a damn shame. This thing is wrapping up here. I'll probably be uninstalling the game pretty soon here. I'm definitely not sticking around after it goes peer-to-peer. And honestly, I had such a bad time tonight trying to find good matches. I don't really think I'm up for more nights like that at this point, knowing that the game is closing down soon. I think for me it might be best to just rip the band-aid off and say so long TCM. It's been real. If you're out there making content for this on YouTube, thanks. Seriously, thank you. I've loved watching all of the videos people have been doing and the discussions and podcasts and stuff. That stuff has all been great, and the game has needed that support. If you're on the Reddit, thanks for all your posts and all your support for the game there too. It's definitely been important for this game, whether or not Gunn wants to admit it. I don't know what game comes next, but I hope to see you all out there in it. Until then.